Welcome back into Pattrn. As we heard earlier this hour, we've had a record number of dangerous and expensive weather disasters this year, and it turns out more extreme weather is impacting our decisions to live in certain places.
We got Dr. Jeremy Porter, head of the research and development at First Street Foundation, which just released a report on this specific subject. Dr. Porter, thanks for being with us. And just looking at this information, how does the information about climate risk shape our decisions for homeowners who are looking to move?
Yeah, our research really adds on to what we already know about the ways in which people move in regard to climate. People in general, from sort of a macro migration perspective, have been moving from what we call like the Rust Belt, the Midwest and the Northeast down to the South and to the West. And generally, we see more risk in those areas, more tropical cyclones, more wildfires. So the narrative has really been focused on at a high level, people are moving to risk, but those cross-state moves are really only about 15% of all migration that happens annually. So the bulk of Americans generally move within their same communities, within their same cities. And when you start to think about that, you start to bring in things like local knowledge. So people generally know what streets flood in their community. And when it's time for them to move, they may either consciously or subconsciously start to avoid those areas. And we went back and looked at census data. From 2000 to 2020, we brought in a lot of flood risk information, exposure information, and then a lot of community characteristics. And we found that people are, in fact, responding, and high-risk areas are growing at a slower rate than lower-risk areas when it comes to flood risk.
All right, let's talk about the three states with the most growth: Texas, Florida, and California. But those areas are also facing some of the greatest climate risks. That's not deterring anybody. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, those are the three of the fastest growing states, and along with Louisiana, they make up half of the billion-dollar damages that we've seen out of NOAA. So they're a tremendous amount of damage, climate risk that occurs in the area. And a lot of it's because people are moving to those areas. There's more population, more infrastructure, more property, just generally more things to get damaged. The areas are growing, but our research found that even in places like Miami and Houston that have really fast growing populations above the national average over that 20-year period, that growth is happening in an uneven way. In Miami, for instance, we found that people are leaving some of the high risk coastal flooding areas where there's or even like nuisance tidal flooding that occurs multiple times a month, and they're moving to the high ground. They're moving to areas that generally were less desirable. So the economic opportunity in these areas is really still strong. People want to live in places with good weather. They want to. There are a lot of amenities in these communities, so people are still going to those locations. But locally, people are making decisions because they know which areas inside of those fast-growing communities are more at risk.
I worry about Miami, though, guys, with the hurricanes. I mean,
yeah, but Miami's one of the biggest places people are moving to right now. But the financial hub is going there. It's crazy.
But when you have an Andrew go through there or something again, it's going to be bad.
So, of course, we could talk about Florida, but just looking at Texas for a second, and maybe we'll go back to Florida. They receive a lot of damage, right? Drought, severe weather, winter storm that they had a couple years ago, that big winter one. Why is Texas taking such a big hit from this climate crisis that we're in?
Yeah, we focused only on flooding in this particular research that we just published. There's certainly an impact from multiple climate hazards. In particular, in Texas, we're seeing, even if you just look at flood, multiple types of flood risk. So
sure.
in the interior, places like Bexar County, San Antonio, they're getting hit by extreme precipitation events. And then on the coast, Houston's getting hit by tropical cyclones. So there are multiple types of flood risk that exist in the area, and people are responding to it. We found in Bexar County, which grew by 45% over this time period, 18% of the blocks in San Antonio are climate abandonment areas. They have high flood risk, and people are leaving those areas.
Wow.
Yeah, that is huge. Dr. Jeremy Porter, head of research and development at First Street Foundation.